Alrighty, so do you like goals? Because there was not much that was found in terms of the Saturday matinee action, and in fact, there's only one goal that was scored in all three of this game, and that one goal that was scored was from the penalty spot. So yeah, let's just hope things will be a little bit more exciting in terms of the goal scoring as we get into the evening, and especially let's just hope the games are going to be more excited too. Because let's talk about the first game between Toronto versus Minnesota, and I gotta say, this might be going down as the most dullest and most boring game of the season. And of course, Minnesota has to be involved in a game that is very dull. I mean, I feel like we saw it last season as well, where they had a match that was very boring to watch. And then I think a couple of years ago, that was the same case when they played against Dallas in a game that I infamously said that game kind of made my eyes bleed, and this game was kind of similar to that. Though, again, if you're TFC, there's definitely that good news, the fact that now that they got points in the last three games, and it feels like this has started to look like the TFC side that we saw at least early in the season under John Herman last season, where if we're struggling to score goals, then how about let's try to make sure we don't give up a ton of goals as they did in the beginning of the season, and they've definitely done a much better job in this game where they really shut down this Loons attack that was very potent coming into this game. Now, in the first half, Johnson would deny Longwane off of a deflection, as I thought the Loons were on the front foot to try to score another early opener, just like they did last week. The first shot for Toronto, C Insigne puts it over on the volley. The shots were one apiece early on. Benedeski would then hit it right to Dane Sinclair before Yuboa try to back heel one that goes wide there. There was a shout for a penalty, not given to TFC, and really besides the early chances that the Loons has had, they've been a little flat throughout this game, and that kind of would be the case throughout this entire game as well. Safe to say, this is probably the worst attacking display that Minnesota had put throughout this season. Ole Shai then had a shot that was deflected and wide. Yeah, both Tani and Yoboa had a really quiet game in this one. Arguably, both of those guys probably the worst game that they played so far this season. But we do head to halftime scoreless between both of these teams. In the second half, Flores would the last one to Lake Ontario on the volley before Dane Sinclair denied Etienne Jr. from closes. I thought Toronto was on the front foot. They looked to try to get the lead here early on. Minnesota clearly did not start it on time in the second half. It feels like they were still in the locker room when this second half kicked off. Benedeski would hit one right to Dane Sinclair. The shots were 6-5 for Toronto up to this point, but still, the chances were very limited. You couldn't really say that in this game that either of these goalkeeper have to make some big save. I mean, yes, Dane Sinclair did have that to make that big save on Etienne Jr., but besides that, it was just kind of a very dull game up to that point. Johnson would then deny Romero from close range. That was probably the best chance that Minnesota has had, and really the only time that Minnesota troubled Sean Johnson in this game. Trapp would then put it wide from close range in the 60th minute. The ref was then told he really sucked. Yeah, it's safe to say that the home fans were not a big fan of this referee in this game. And then I also thought the set piece delivery just have not been there for the Loons. And, this is kind of one of the strength of this season for Eric Ramsey, where they've been very good when it comes to the set pieces, and those delivery from Pereira and Rosales has been really good this year. It was just kind of off in this game, and it's no surprise that because of their set piece not doing relatively well, and not to mention they're actually getting more possession in this game than usual. I wonder if that was kind of what TFC was trying to do, because Minnesota has been the lowest possession team in the league. So you give them possession, let's see how they can break you down. And I think that also could maybe be a blueprint to play against this Minnesota team, where yeah, it is safe to say that after this game, with the way that when Minnesota does have the possession, they don't really have the they have to try to break forward, and that this is kind of the thing that I was maybe a little concerned, the fact that with them being such a heavy rely on the counter attack and also on the set pieces, and that when both of those are not working, yeah, you kind of saw an attacking performance that pretty much was non-existent throughout this one. But as the time winds down, Toronto, they started to put more man forward, and I thought maybe this could play into Minnesota. Maybe they can get on the transition against this relatively weak TFC defense. Though Benedetti would hit one right to Dane Sinclair in the 86th minute before Osorio puts it way high from long range. That shot just kind of up the attack for TFC. Well, and while as I said, the defense has definitely been a lot better for this TFC side. The attack has been anything but that. I mean, it's been absolutely woeful throughout the season, and that's another example of it. Though he did have had a better chance just a couple of minutes into stoppage time, but he hits one right to Dane Sinclair at the top of the arc, and in the end, in a fitting game that pretty much was a very dull game, it ended in a nil-nil draw. The shots in this one, 9 shots for the 8 that Minnesota has, only 1 shot on goal compared to the 5 that TFC had. 3 shots off target for the 2 that Minnesota has, 4 shots that was blocked for the 1 that TFC had, and possession-wise, dead even at 50%. This is probably the most possession that Minnesota has had in a game, and again, not a big surprise. With the way that when they have more possession, it feels like they were pretty much stuck in quicksand in this game. They couldn't do anything with possession, and that's kind of the thing that I think teams might do going forward against Minnesota, where they're gonna basically force them to have more of the possession, and that's kind of where I'm a little concerned about this team because when you're so heavily rely on the counterattack and set pieces, and when those are not going well, oh boy, this could be a problem for this team. But nevertheless, I'll take a point out of this game, especially this getting 4 points on this road trip. It's not necessarily a bad thing, but at the end of the day, this is kind of an opponent you want to win, especially against a TFC side that even though I said that they have been much improved, especially on the defensive department, this is definitely a team that Minnesota should dispatch. And as I mentioned, this is probably one of the easiest game that Minnesota will have to play when it comes to playing an opponent that is way off in terms of where they are in this standing in the Eastern Conference. Now, moving on, in terms of the next match, is Atlanta and the New England Revolution, and there's got to be a lot of concern right now if you're a Five Stripes fan. I mean, it just kind of feels like this beginning of the season is starting to look like a repeat of last season. A team that on paper should be a very fun team to watch, and on paper, with all the money that they spent on the attack, you would expect this team to fire on all cylinder and play that attractive style of soccer like what we see when they came into the league, and especially after bringing Ronnie Dalia, who has been proven to be an MLS Cup winning kind of head coach and can bring the winning culture to a team. I mean, yeah, this is definitely not ideal with them once again can looking poor going forward. And really, in this game, it wasn't because of lack of trying. It was just simply because they just couldn't finish in this game. And then New England, who, despite the fact that they still have not scored an open play goal this season, they got their second win of the season and definitely would relieve a lot of pressure that Caleb Porter is dealing with right now around his seat. But in the first half, I thought that the first thing I want to mention is that this might be the first time I've actually seen sunshine inside Mercedes-Benz Stadium. I mean, that's been kind of almost a reminder of the fact that this is a retractable roof stadium because throughout most of the games I watch with Atlanta United playing at the Benz, it's always been kind of dark, and I know that most of the time the roof is closed, and even when they open the roof, I mean, it's mostly kind of dark. You don't usually see the sunshine being lit up. So the fact that the sun actually came into MBS, it just kind of felt like I was watching a complete different stadium compared to what I usually accustomed with Mercedes-Benz Stadium. But nevertheless, Atlanta was definitely on the front foot early on as they were pushing for the opener. And despite for the sun, I will say that I don't think the broadcast has did really well when it comes to dealing with the sun. You can clearly see the shadow did not help the quality of broadcast in this game, and I don't blame them because this is really one of the first time I've actually see an Atlanta United home game where the sun is actually out, and I don't think they ever really deal with that ever whenever where they broadcast an Atlanta United home game. But in the 7th minute, Heel with the game's first shot, but his free kick goes way wide off of the deflection before Guzan would deny Heel after just a bad turnover from Atlanta, and then Fofana would puts it wide on the header. And remember that good start that Atlanta has had? Yeah, that was all wiped away because New England definitely came to play in this one at least early on after surviving a little bit of pressure in the first 5 minutes. Heel would then curls it wide from close before Urruti would hit it right to Guzan. The shots were now 5-3 for New England all to this point. They were putting a ton of pressure on this Atlanta back line that we talked about this season. This has been a weakness for this Atlanta team. Latte Laugh then was in on goal there, but he was absolutely robbed by Ivicic on a 1v1. And while, Latte Laugh has the goals to backed up in terms of the DP tag. He's pretty much almost getting no help by any other supporting cast and all the other attacking pieces that this Atlanta United team has had. But in the 20th minute, Guzan would deny heel from close. I just kind of feel like the opener was imminent because while this was a really boring game and at times I didn't really keep too much attention to it, this really had my attention because it was a very fast start. It was a very entertaining game, at least in the early bit. And then Latte Laugh had a chance to make it 1-0, but he struck the post, but it was recycled to Almiron, and his shot was denied by Ivicic. Ivicic was big in this game and was one of the main reasons why New England was able to almost. I mean, I don't want to say they stole this win because I thought they were the better team in the first half and in part of the second half as well. But in the 28th minute, Almiron would. Oh, by the way, I forgot to mention that Ruti would then hits it right to Guzan, who spills it and Gatter, and the shots were 7-6 for New England up to this point, and we haven't even played half out. And I thought we were gonna get a ton of shots. They're probably going to be at a point where we could be going at 40 shots combined for both of these teams with how entertaining this game was up to this point. But in the 28th minute, it looked like Atlanta finally broke through and kind of maybe scored a little against the run of play as Almiron scored an absolute banger there. But they go to VAR to see whether or not if there was an offside on the development play. There was, so the goal, of course, what was chopped off. It remained 0-0, and that was big too because just a couple minutes later, penalty was given to the Rams as Latte Laugh brought down heel in the box, and there was really no need for Latte Laugh to make that challenge. It feels like it's your typical striker kind of challenge there, but again, just no need for him to make that. Consider heel was nowhere near in terms of going through and going. He pretty much had his back against the goal there. So here comes Carlos Hill, a chance to bury it on the penalty. They mentioned he was 5 for 5 when it comes to scoring from penalty spot this in his career with New England. Make it 6 for 6 as he buries this one to make it 1-0 in favor of the Rams. And then Miller had a chance to get another for the Rams, but he missed one in the 38th minute. That Atlanta backline is just all over the place up to this point. And look, Ratto as well. Not the first time we have said about this Atlanta backline that has not been great whatsoever this season. And I also thought that Atlanta need halftime badly because New England was putting all sorts of pressure to score that second goal. But we do head to halftime with New England only leading 1-0 despite had multiple chances to make it 2-0. In the second half, Ivicic would deny Marinchuk on the back heel before Latte Laugh looked like he put the ball into the back of the net. Looked like he made amends for giving up the penalty. Problem was he was in an offside position, so the goal didn't count. Lennon then sends one to Augusta as Atlanta started to once again press to try to get the equalizer with a good start in the second half. Though Ruti was in on goal there, but he was denied by Guzan as the flag went up, so that goal wouldn't have counted it, even if Ruti puts it into the back of net. Latte Laugh then puts it over from close range. There was a shout for a penalty for Atlanta that was not given, and then Almiron just puts it over from close range. Atlanta was pounding on the door. Like they were pushing hard to get the equalizer, but the problem is the finishing was just not there up to this point, and you just wonder, will this lack of finishing come back to haunt this five-stripe team? And really, as the time winds down, New England was in rope heave mode. I mean, they were in parking the bus mode. They're just hanging on for dear life to get this 1-0 win. And they also had to thank the Pulse for helping them hang on to this lead up to this point because TRA, which struck the post on the header, and I just immediately wrote, it's just not going to happen for Atlanta. Like they're getting blue ball in this game by all offside and in the post in this game, and not to mention by Ivicic too, because he would deny Almiron on the overhead kick in the 86th minute. There was another shout for a penalty for Orlando that was not given, and then Campana had a chance to seal this. I mean, he was 1v1 with the goalkeeper. He was pretty much clear in on goal or in hockey term. It was a non-man rush, and yeah, for whatever reason, he kind of I don't think he realized that Schleich was actually catching him his up. I think he had too much time to think about it, and because of that, Schleich was able to caught up to him, just kind of put him off there and put a weak effort right to Guzan. And I mean, if there is not a microcosm of the Revs attack after that play, I don't know what is. I mean, at that point, I just think this team is simply cursed when it comes to scoring from open play. As I said, even with the Carlos Hill goal that they scored in this one from the spot, they have yet to score from open play this season. And Leo Campana, I know he just came back from injury, but I mean, when you spend that much money to get him from Inter Miami, you would expect him to bury that one 10 out of 10 times. Click would then hits it right to Ivasic in the 6 minute stoppage time, and luckily for New England, that horror miss there from Campana does not come back to haunt them because they get the 1-0 victory over Atlanta in this one. Shots in this one, 18 shots for the 12 that New England has, 5 shots on goal for the 7 that New England has, 3 shots off target for the 5 that Atlanta has, 3 shots that was blocked for the 2 that New England has, and possession-wise, 56% possession compared to the 44% possession that New England has in this game. And like I said, the seat does cool off a little bit for Caleb Porter's side. I don't know if this is kind of sustainable the way that New England play in this one. I mean, I will say that overall, I do think that they deserve this win, especially they probably would have put this game away much earlier if they were being a little bit clinical in terms of their finishing as well. But speaking of that, I mean, that was kind of the problem for Atlanta this season. This slow start can continue, and now the pressure. I talk about Caleb Porter kind of under a little pressure. You gotta say the same thing about Ronnie Daly. Again, this is a Atlanta United fan base that is not very patient when it comes to their head coach, and when results are not going well, especially with how slow of a start to the season, I think Ronnie Daly might be under some heat, and if resort doesn't improve, then you could say he could be close to getting on the chopping block because there is no way in the world when you look at this team, even though you can ask the question when it comes to the defense, there is no way in the world a team with that amount of attacking talent would be struggling to score goals in most of the game this season. I mean, they only have 2 games I think this season where they score more than 2 goals. That should not be the case after you spend like 50+ million dollar to try to improve the attack. But with that being said, moving on into the last game on the board and the last Saturday matinee game. So this game, for a long time it looked like Orlando City was finally going to get that opening goal, and then the red card changed everything. And it was a very controversial red card as well as we'll get to it. But in the first half, Cornell would deny Muriel from a point blank effort as that was the game for a shot. Choupo-Moting would look to get the opening goal for the Red Bulls. It was a cool finish there from Choupo-Moting as well. Problem was he was in an offside position, so that goal would be disallowed. And little do we know that really one of the best chances that the Red Bulls would get throughout this entire game because they really didn't do much for the rest of this game until the red card happened. Passage would hits the side netting, and that kind of fooled some Orlando fans. I saw some Orlando fans celebrating, thinking that was 1-0, but unfortunately hits the side netting. It was a lively start to this game as both of these teams were looking for the opener. Cabargio would then puts it wide from long range before Morial would hits the side netting in the 21st minute. The shots were 3-1 for Orlando 20 minutes in. Angulo would then puts it just wide from close as Orlando continued to push for the opening goal. Pasalic tried to chip Cornell there, but missed just wide there. Cornell went way off his lines here, and he's very fortunate that Pasalic didn't caught him out because of it. There was a shout for a penalty for Orlando not given, and then Cornell denied Ojeda in the front post. This started to become the Carlos Cornell show in the first half, and kind of almost reminiscent of what we saw with the Red Bulls MLS Cup run with Cornell making some big save after big save to steal games. But there was no doubt up to this point the pressure was mounting for Orlando, who was pressing really hard to get the opening goal. Pasalic would then hits it right to Cornell in the 38th minute before he denied Moriel from close. And I even wrote Cornell was the only reason this is 0-0 because Orlando was all over the Red Bulls up to this point. And then he robbed Janssen from close in the 43rd minute. And like I said, it just feels like we're back in the Eastern Conference Final. Did I mention this is a rematch of the Eastern Conference Final in the beginning? Yeah, it feels like Cornell probably knows this because he was standing on his head trying to keep this 0-0 before we head to halftime whistle. And the good news for him, that is exactly what happened as we head to halftime scoreless between both of these teams, despite the fact Orlando had just almost a boatload of chances to get the opening goal. In the second half, Paslic would puts it into the wall, and Orlando kind of picked up where they left off, continued to press for the opening goal, but then the red card changed everything. As Schlegel gets a second yellow because of that, and I gotta say, it was very, very soft. I mean, yes, he kind of dove in a little bit miscarries the lead there, but for a second yellow card like that, especially for a guy that is on the yellow, I've seen more malicious challenge that is giving as a second yellow than this. Especially this came just moments after the Red Bulls themselves commit a very sinister foul on Orlando City player, and the fact that they're very lucky the fact that they got away with a straight red because of that. So yeah, obviously Orlando City fans are not going to be happy, and I'm not surprised the crowd was not happy about that either because they immediately told the ref that he sucked. Yeah, rightfully so. So there, I'm not gonna blame Orlando City fans for saying that. I feel like they got really hard done because of them instead of maybe seeing the Red Bulls getting a red card. Now they're down to 10 men for the remaining of the game and really changed how the percussion of this game. Parker would then miss wide from long range in the 61st minute with a man up. The Red Bulls started to be more aggressive on the attack. Carmona would have a shot that was deflected and goes wide. But despite the fact that the Red Bulls continue to have possession, weren't really doing much in the third quality, and at times I thought they looked vulnerable on the transition because this is kind of the game I think now that Oscar was going to play. It's almost like his tactics completely changed. The fact that they become from a team that was very aggressive going forward on the attack, but now being down to 10 men, maybe sit back a little bit, trying to catch the Red Bulls on the transition because the Red Bulls are expected to push more men forward with them being a man up. Carmona would then hits it right to Galese in the 75th minute, and I just kind of also feel like we're on verge of another nil-nil because it just didn't look like there was going to be a goal in this one with Orlando starting to kind of slow down on the transition. You wonder maybe the heat kind of play a factor into this one because it's not very often you see a day game at Inter and Co Stadium. There was a shout for a penalty for the Red Bulls, but instead Valencia gets booked for simulation, and rightfully so. I mean, that was clearly a dive there from Omar Valencia, and then Choupo-Moting just could not hit this one in the back post before Forsberg tried to chip the keeper from the halfway line, but came nowhere near target. That moment just kind of sums up the Red Bulls day. Just no creativity whatsoever going forward on the attacking end, and as a result, it's a nil-nil draw again. Second nil-nil draw of this week. I'm just hoping that's not going to be a trend. At least when we look at the remaining games for match week number 8. The shots in this one, 14 shots committed, 8 that the Red Bulls had, 1 shots on goal for the 4 that Orlando City had, 6 shots off target for the 5 that the Red Bulls had, 3 shots that was blocked for the 4 that Orlando City has, and possession-wise, 51% possession compared to the 49% possession the Red Bulls have in this game. And I don't think either head coach are going to be happy with this result. I mean, for Oscar Pereira, he's probably not going to be happy, especially toward the refereeing, the fact that red card changed everything. Because had that red card not happened, I had a feeling eventually Orlando City was going to score a goal. I mean, I know Cornell was standing on his heads up to this point, but the amount of pressure that Orlando City was putting, you just kind of had a sense eventually the dam was going to broke. And, for the Red Bulls, I mean, they're happy that they got a point out this game, despite the fact that they were nowhere near at their best in this one. But they'll be very frustrated the fact that, with a man up and they still couldn't create any chances against this Orlando City side. That is going to be something that will be very frustrating for Sanjo Schwartz team. And again, it's back to the drawing board when it comes to figuring out their role for him. The role for him this season has not been great whatsoever this year for the New York Red Bulls. But there you have it. That is pretty much it for the review of all 3 of these games. And like I said, I'm really hoping that this is not going to be a theme, at least what we see for the rest of this match week. I mean, obviously, sometimes you do see it in these matinee games where maybe games be a little bit dull and whatsoever. But let's just hope things will pick up as we get into the busy evening action and even heading into tomorrow Sunday action as well. But until then, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you guys leave a like, smash the subscribe button, and yeah, I of course will see you guys next time.